The American dream, the idea that anyone, regardless of background, can achieve success through hard work and determination. It's a powerful image, one that has drawn generations to America's shores. But in 2024, that dream feels increasingly out of reach for many. The reality on the ground is a stark contrast to the shining promise. Americans are facing a perfect storm of challenges, from economic hardship to social unrest, that are making it harder than ever to simply get by, let alone thrive. This isn't about whining or complaining, it's about taking a hard look at the facts and asking ourselves some tough questions. What has happened to the promise of America? And more importantly, what can we do to fix it? This essay will delve into the harsh realities of life in the US in 2024, pulling back the curtain on the struggles faced by everyday Americans. We'll examine the economic anxieties, the healthcare nightmares, the social divisions, and the cultural barriers that are eroding the fabric of American society. This isn't a pretty picture, but it's one that needs to be painted, because only by confronting the truth can we hope to find solutions. Let's talk about money, or rather, the lack of it. Inflation is eating away at the purchasing power of American families. Remember when you could buy a gallon of milk without needing a small loan? Yeah, good times. But those days feel long gone for many Americans struggling to keep up with the rising cost of everything from groceries to gas to housing. And then there's the ever-present burden of debt. Student loan debt has reached crisis levels, with millions of Americans saddled with crippling payments that follow them long after graduation. Credit card debt is also on the rise as people turn to plastic to cover basic expenses they can no longer afford. The American dream shouldn't involve a lifetime of debt servitude. The federal budget deficit isn't helping matters either. It's like watching a runaway train heading straight for a cliff, and nobody at the controls seems to know how to apply the brakes. This irresponsible spending only adds to the national debt, which future generations will be stuck paying off. The economic situation is bleak, and for many Americans it's a daily struggle just to stay afloat. Imagine this. Getting sick or injured shouldn't bankrupt you. In most developed countries this is a given, but in the US healthcare is treated more like a luxury good than a basic human right. The US is the only developed nation without a universal healthcare system. Instead, we have a patchwork system of private insurance that is often expensive, confusing, and inadequate. Millions of Americans are uninsured or underinsured, forced to make impossible choices between their health and their financial security. Medical bills are a leading cause of bankruptcy in the US. People are forced to ration their medication, delay necessary procedures, or even forego treatment altogether because they simply can't afford it. This isn't healthcare, it's a moral outrage. And it's not just the uninsured who are suffering. Even those with insurance are often hit with sky-high deductibles, co-pays, and out-of-pocket expenses that can be financially devastating. The system is broken, and it's failing the American people. America has a problem with violence. Gun violence in particular has reached epidemic proportions, leaving communities traumatized and families shattered. Mass shootings, once shocking, have become tragically commonplace. The sound of sirens and the sight of yellow crime scene tape are all too familiar in many American cities. But it's not just the headline-grabbing acts of violence that are cause for concern. Daily gun violence, often in marginalized communities, claims countless lives and perpetuates a cycle of fear and despair. The easy availability of firearms, coupled with a lack of political will to address the issue, has created a deadly status quo. And it's not just gun violence that's plaguing the nation. Violent crime rates, while lower than in decades past, are still a major concern in many areas. People are afraid to walk alone at night, to let their children play outside, to even go to the movies or a concert without fearing for their safety. This is no way to live. Section 5. Navigating a minefield of cultural differences. America prides itself on being a melting pot of cultures. But the reality is more complicated. For immigrants and expats, the American dream can often feel like an elusive goal, fraught with obstacles and disappointments. The immigration system is a bureaucratic nightmare, with long wait times, complex paperwork, and constantly shifting rules. Obtaining a work visa or green card can be a Herculean task, leaving many in a state of limbo and uncertainty. And even those who manage to navigate the legal hurdles often face discrimination, prejudice, and a sense of not belonging. Language barriers can be another major challenge. Imagine trying to navigate daily life in a country where you don't speak the language. Simple tasks like grocery shopping, ordering food, or making a doctor's appointment can become daunting obstacles. And the cultural differences can be equally jarring, leading to misunderstandings, social isolation, and a sense of alienation. The American dream should be open to everyone, regardless of where they were born or what language they speak. But the reality is that many newcomers face an uphill battle, their hopes and aspirations often met with indifference or hostility. Section 6. The isolation of the international student. Coming to America to study can be an exciting and enriching experience, but for many international students, it can also be a time of great loneliness, isolation, and cultural shock. Leaving behind family, friends, and everything familiar to pursue an education in a foreign country is a courageous decision, but it can also be an incredibly daunting one. International students often struggle to adapt to a new culture, make friends, and find their place in a society that can feel both exhilarating and overwhelming. Finding suitable and affordable housing can be a major challenge, with many students forced to live in cramped, overpriced apartments far from campus. And the high cost of living in the United States, coupled with the often confusing nature of the American university system, can add to the stress and anxiety. International students bring a wealth of knowledge, experience, and cultural diversity to American campuses. It's crucial that we foster a welcoming and supportive environment where they can thrive, both academically and personally. Section 7. A Nation in Decline. The Grim Statistics. The consequences of these converging crises are impossible to ignore. America's life expectancy is declining, a grim statistic that reflects a nation struggling with its health and well-being. Drug overdoses, particularly from opioids, are claiming lives at an alarming rate. Chronic illnesses like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer are on the rise, fueled by unhealthy lifestyles, limited access to quality healthcare, and environmental factors. Obesity rates continue to climb, contributing to a host of health problems and imposing a significant burden on the healthcare system. The American diet, often heavy on processed foods, sugar, and unhealthy fats, is a major culprit. And a lack of physical activity, coupled with sedentary lifestyles, only exacerbates the problem. These health challenges have far-reaching consequences, not just for individuals, but for the economy as a whole. A sicker workforce is a less productive workforce. Rising healthcare costs put a strain on businesses and families alike, and the human cost of preventable deaths and chronic illness is immeasurable. Section 8. The Crumbling Foundation of the American Dream. The American dream is built on the idea of opportunity, of upward mobility, of the belief that if you work hard and play by the rules, you can achieve success. But for many Americans, that dream is fading. The gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, creating a society where the rungs on the ladder of opportunity feel increasingly out of reach. The cost of education is skyrocketing, making a college degree, once a ticket to a better life, an insurmountable financial burden for many families. Good-paying jobs are becoming scarcer, replaced by low-wage, part-time work that offers little security or benefits. And the rising cost of housing is pushing homeownership further out of reach for many, forcing families to choose between paying rent and putting food on the table. The American dream is under threat not from external forces but from within. It's being eroded by a system that favors the wealthy and well-connected, leaving too many Americans behind to struggle in a rigged game. Section 9. A Call to Action, Reclaiming the Promise of America. This is not a message of despair, it's a call to action. The problems facing America are complex and deeply rooted, but they are not insurmountable. It's time to acknowledge the harsh realities, engage in honest conversations, and demand better from our leaders. We need to address the economic anxieties that are gripping so many Americans. That means tackling inflation, getting the national debt under control, and creating an economy that works for everyone, not just those at the top. We need to fix our broken healthcare system and ensure that everyone has access to quality, affordable care. No one should have to choose between their health and their financial well-being. We need to address the epidemic of violence that is tearing communities apart. That means having tough conversations about gun control, investing in mental health resources, and addressing the root causes of crime and despair. We need to create a more welcoming and inclusive society for immigrants and expats, recognizing the value and contributions they bring to our nation. And we need to support international students, ensuring they have the resources and support they need to thrive in their new home. The American dream is not dead, but it's on life support. It's time to revive it, to reclaim the promise of America for this generation and generations to come. The future of our nation depends on it.